And good evening, and welcome to yet another episode of Territories Talk. Territories Talk was founded in 2021 in the hopes of bringing the stories of the British overseas territories to the people. As we often know, until there's a almost a natural disaster, the Caribbean never really gets featured in the media, much less the smaller islands. So in 2021, a group of friends in Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands got together and started Territories Talk on the radio. And in 2022, we migrated to an online show. And I want to give a shout out to my original partners, were with Shana Smith Archer of the beautiful Virgin Islands, Eden Harrelson of the Cayman Islands. We've now added one other lady, and that's Speaker Shirley Osborne from Montserrat. The British Overseas Territories consist of Anguilla, Bermuda, the beautiful Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Montserrat, and Turks and Caicos Islands. So tonight, our show, we're going to be talking to a good friend, a longtime friend of ours from Turks and Caicos Island, Mr. Drexwell Seymour, and I will now bring him, without further ado, I bring him to the stage. Good evening,
Thank
Brother
you. Thank you.
Drexwell.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. Honorable me on the show. I know I've been on the show in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
so I am excited to be back, having this conversation with you, providing you with updates on Turks about my country, Turks and Caicos. And
Our,
for those who do
our
not know
country,
me,
our country.
our country, yes, our country. For those of you who do not know me, I am a CPA. I have my accounting firm, but I'm very passionate about the Turks and Caicos Islands. And so every week I write articles, basically to inform and educate the public and to provide my opinions, and more or less to also provide a shakeup to the government, because sometimes I believe we are too quiet in our country and someone has to say something. And so that's where I come in. I also host a weekly show, Financially Speaking, and I also have my own YouTube channel. And I'm the author of two books, Rise Up and Take Your Position, and then Succeeding in Your Position. And that's, and of course, I'm married, and my wife and I, we have 5 children, one daughter and 4 sons.
Okay. So what we're gonna do, because a lot of people don't know where the Turks and Caicos Island are.
Right.
So what we're gonna do is a quick geography class, and I'll let you narrate that class.
Sure. Well, first of all, in the many years ago, we were considered to be part of the Bahamas, and geographically, we probably are. And then, because the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos used to share the same governor until the Bahamas became independent, and then we had our own governor. Of course, we had also at one time shared governor with Jamaica. However, we were right about 575 miles below Florida, with about 40 islands and keys, and about 5 or 6 islands and keys are inhabited. And, I will say this, Bermuda and Turks and Caicos have a very close history, in that our first industry really was salt, which I believe I understand it to be started by Bermudians who came here and started the salt industry. In fact, you'll see many of our last names are similar. And right now, though, we no longer have salt as part of our industry. Of course, we still have, you can see the remains of salt, evidence that we did have salt here because we have salt ponds. But what we do focus on right now is our major industry, is tourism. But
Okay.
geographically, we are part of the Atlantic, right below Florida, right below the Bahamas.
Mhm. So let's go back to how many islands are there actually in the Turks and Caicos Island?
There are 40 islands and keys.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're not one landmass. I mean, unlike some islands, we're just one landmass. We have several islands. Um, and the largest island, you saying something?
No, no.
Oh, and we have about 8 islands that are inhabited. We have, you have Middle Caicos, which is the largest. We got North Caicos. We got Providenciales, where I live. We have East Caicos, which is uninhabited. I think East Caicos is almost the same size as Bermuda. And then we have West Caicos. We have South Caicos, where I was born. We have Grand Turk, which is the capital of the Turks and Caicos. And then we have Salt Key. And then we have Pine Key. And we have Parrot Key. These are the islands that people reside, that live on. The other islands are not
So,
inhabited.
quick question. You said East, was it East Caicos? You said is uninhabited.
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, many years ago, I think there was a big sisal plantation, but after a while, just like the salt industry has declined, that industry declined, um, and especially after the salt industry, people migrated to the Bahamas, and because so many people migrated to the Bahamas, there were hardly any residents left, and so you'll find those people who left. They were in Middle Caicos, North Caicos, Provo, South Caicos, Grand Turk, and Salt Key. The majority of people at that time was in Grand Turk. So
So
because of the
what?
collapse,
Sorry, what is the total population of Turks and Caicos Island currently?
we believe that is around 50,000. Our last census was in 2012, and it was around 32,000. But since then, our population has grown so much. In fact, the census is undergoing as we speak, but we have not received official results as yet. But we believe it's about 50,000 people.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Well, and how many of the 50,000? How many are actually Turks and Caicos Islanders?
Wow. You know, less than one third. Less than one third are Turks and Caicos Islanders. Because our economy is growing so fast, we do not have an adequate population of locals to occupy the jobs. And so we have to import laborers. And as a result
Mhm.
of that, the growth of our country has outgrown the growth of the people. And so we have more external people than we have Turks and Caicos Islanders.
Mhm. All right, so let's just go quick history lesson here. You mentioned it, but sometimes when melanated people say something, it's not considered the truth unless people see it in writing. So let's
Okay.
just so according to this, the indigenous people before European contact, the islands were inhabited by the Taino and Lucayan peoples. This will be I didn't even want to use the word Indians, but people that
The original
Columbus told
inhabitants.
you. Right.
Hmm.
Caicos is derived from the Lucayan term of string of islands, and Turks refers to indigenous Turks head cactus.
That's correct.
You have a lot of cactus down there?
We used to have a lot. We probably still do. I don't see much of it,
Hmm.
not that visible, but we used to have a lot of cactus, especially where I was born.
Okay. And it said the Lucayan civilization thrived until the arrival of Europeans, after which their population rapidly declined due to disease and enslavement. Uh, Fast forward in the late 17th century, the islands began to see permanent European settlement in 1681. The salt collectors from Bermuda established the first permanent settlement on Grand Turk Island, drawn by the island's abundant resources. So what that basically saying is that Bermudian slave owners, let's be franker,
Bermuda
the
what?
Bermudian slave owners,
Yeah.
they sold themselves and their enslaved Bermudians down to Turks and Caicos Island because we know they weren't raking no salt themselves.
Exactly. They had workers
as,
that they brought. Yes.
as depicted in this picture.
Mhm.
I don't know who did the picture. I know it's not a. I know it's not from a camera film. It's a painting, but basically you can see it's persons of color in their
Yeah.
soul mines, soul points. All right. So to your point earlier, a lot of the first time I actually met somebody from Turks and Caicos Island,
Hmm.
I was in Miami, and we both
Oh,
got pulled aside by
immigration.
exactly right, flying while black, right, and the person was talking, and I'm saying, "Hey, you're from Bermuda, boy?"
Yeah.
And the person kept saying, "No, I ain't from Bermuda." I'm thinking, okay, maybe he thinks I'm a cop, right? So I said, "Your parents are from Bermuda?" He said, "No." I said, "You ever lived in Bermuda?" He kept saying no. He says, "Look, well, I'm from Turks and Caicos Island." I was like, "Well, you could drop in Bermuda today, and no one would know that you're not
Hmm.
Bermudan, but just by his talk, right?"
Right. Right.
And this was before the pre-internet, so I myself was a lot ignorant of the history of Turks and Caicos
Right.
Island. I'm saying, how are these guys sound just like Bermudian? And
Yeah.
then,
We get that a
as
lot.
you
We get that a lot. Mhm.
right. So as you said, enslaved the slave masters and the enslaved both traveled to Turks and Caicos Island and settled there. So what you find, especially in you could correct me if I'm wrong, especially in islands such as Soul Key and Grand Turk,
And
you'll
South
find a lot
Caicos.
of and South Caicos, you'll find a lot of people have my similar accent to what I have. And the surnames are almost the same, or are the same, I should say. The
Yeah.
Taylors, the Butterfields, the Aswoods, the Friths, the Durhams, the Stubbs, the Mystics, all those are people from Bermuda, right? The
Yeah.
original names came from Bermuda.
Yeah.
So the Swans, the Talbots, it's almost
Yeah.
every native Bermudian name is a native Turks and
Yeah.
Caicos
Yeah.
Island name, right? Turks and
Yeah.
Caicos
Well,
Wilsons.
right. But of course, those names are not really our names.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
enslaved names,
But
let's put it that
yes.
way.
Yes.
Um,
So those three islands, South Caicos, Salkey, and Grand Turk, with the three islands that had salt in industry as part of the economy.
mhm. Yeah, so I say that to say that um, this is the part of the history that they don't like to tell us is that we're actually all related, right?
Yeah.
They try to
Absolutely.
differentiate and say, "Oh, those people in Turks and Caicos are nothing like the people in Bermuda," and yeah, you're the same.
We
You
are we
might
are the same. Just like
you
the
might have
Bahamas
to,
and Turks. We're
right,
just the same.
right. So fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward a little bit because today is not necessarily a history lesson day. What is the what is Turks and Caicos Island industry like now?
Well, I mean, we only have really one industry, which is tourism. I know Bermuda has a vibrant financial services industry, but the Turks and Caicos Islands, our financial services industry only contribute 5% into
Hmm.
our GDP. So our main and only industry is tourism, and I think we're doing
Hmm.
well. I mean, unfortunately, this year there has been a decline in our tourism industry based on the numbers and based on the feedback we're hearing from the hospitality industry, and that's probably because of the rise in crime we had earlier this year. Thankfully, we had a major reduction now, so hopefully we should see things progressing like it was in the past.
Hmm. And what are your tourism numbers like annually?
Okay, so we have a cruise terminal in Grand Turk. That's just the capital, which I mentioned earlier. We have
Hmm.
about 1 million visitors that go there on an annual basis. And then our main island, where most tourists, where our airlines come to, um, where our main international airport is, we have almost 500,000 um, tourists, between 400 to 500,000 tourists coming on an annual basis, primarily from America.
Mm.
But we have a lot of
Okay.
hotels. We have a lot of condos. There's so much construction going on in Turks and Caicos right now. Almost everywhere you turn, there's construction going on.
So what's this? Which is this hotel?
Can't really tell what's that one. I really can't tell what that one is.
I
Yeah.
think it's the Shore Club, but it's an example of
Oh,
it's
maybe that
it's
is
an
the shop.
example. It's
Yeah.
an example of
Well,
the
you know
high
more than
end
I do.
tour.
That probably is the Shaw Club. Yeah.
Yeah, I only been there once.
I was thinking of Grace Bay, and I was looking, say this does not look familiar on Grace Bay, which is
Mhm.
our most popular beach.
Yeah, and then I was did a little quick search online earlier, and these are sort of Airbnb prices, like
Yeah,
ranging from 100.
in
I
addition to
guess.
the hotels, we have a lot of villas,
Hmm.
expatriates and locals, because there are no restrictions. Anyone can have a villa into short-term rentals. So that's a very, very big market here in Turks and Caicos.
Hmm. Yeah, and recently another good friend of mine who is also of Bermudian heritage
Oh,
also had this to say about there's Akira Missy.
Honorable Akira. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I do believe, we have to think long term,
Hmm.
because the island is growing so much with tourism. We have all these um, hotels and condos being constructed. We still need to improve on our infrastructure to accommodate this rapid growth, including a new airport. We need that. Um, and also, it's very risky relying on one industry, which was evident during COVID.
Hmm.
Of course, I think Bermuda and BVI and Cayman Islands were not adversely affected like we were, because we depended so much on tourism. Of course, travel discontinued, and so we didn't really have anything happening. But your country, Bermuda and other places, they were doing well because you had their financial services. And so that's why it's important for us to diversify, because it's very risky in anything, just depending on one industry. So I agree with the member of parliament on that. I mean, I've talked about it
Yeah,
as well and in some of my articles. But even with that, we still need to be prepared for the one industry, which we're not prepared for in terms of infrastructure.
yeah, because as I just read briefly, it just says Turks and Caicos Island prepares to welcome over $1 billion in hotel and resort development. Member of Parliament for Leeward and Long Bay, Honorable Karen Missick, has warned the nation about its over reliance on tourism and suggested a shift in economic avenues. Delivering a stark warning to her colleagues in Parliament on November 12th, she cautioned that the territory's heavy reliance on sun, sea, and sand tourism leaves it dangerously exposed to natural disasters and economic shocks, right?
Yes.
She has argued that the time has come to start saying no to further construction and instead pursue a niche, resilient economic product.
I
Well,
agree, but I don't know how realistic that's going to be because I don't see the government saying no to any developments that come here. I believe it should be. We should consider and draft a
mhm,
plan as to where do we want to see ourselves, and who's benefiting from this development. But I'm not sure the government will discontinue anything when development. I believe any developer that comes here, their government will just continue because all they're looking at is the revenue that they'll collect in bad taxes. Because we charge 12% for accommodation tax, which is a significant part of the government's revenue.
yeah, I mean the thing is that it's almost like I don't want to say the goose that laid the golden egg, You don't want to kill that goose, right?
Right.
The
I mean, I
challenge,
believe tourism will always be our mainstay.
right?
That's one thing I can say. It will be our mainstay. Yes.
The challenge is that when you look at places similar, not necessarily in size, but similar in demographics, Cayman Islands, for example, where they're pretty much overdeveloped, right? And it's now become threatening their environment, right? The
That's another aspect.
the digging up mangroves to build condos. They're digging up. They've allowed hotels to be built so close to the beach that now the most pristine beach, or what was the most pristine beach, 7 Mile Beach, now has beach erosion where 4 miles of the beach no longer exists, right?
Wow.
So the point is to say, yes, have development, but don't kill the beauty that people are coming there to see in the midst of it, right?
Yeah, there must be a balance. We have that same concerns, many of us, in terms of the environment. We speak about it, we talk about it, but I'm not sure whether is real, whether we really mean that we're concerned about the environment, because we even change our laws to accommodate developers. We now have 12 stories. And so now we have buildings now, hotels now having 12 stories.
Right,
So all of that impact our beaches. Our hotels are directly on the beach. Some people, some tourists complain, say, "Oh, this is just like Florida." I mean, the good thing about Turks and Caicos, though, is that we have more than one island. So there are other islands that, for those people who used to come here in the past and expect the low life, and they could go to North Caicos, they could go to Grand Turk, they could go to South Caicos. And so that's
hmm
one brilliant thing about the way God has designed our country, is that one island could probably be developed, but the other islands, we trying to maintain that island look. I hope.
So for this, so let me make sure I got something clear earlier. Anybody could come to Turks and Caicos Island and build there, purchase land and build.
Yeah, there are no restrictions. What about
Mhm.
Bermuda?
Oh no.
Yeah,
We're only about 21 square miles. We are literally the smallest overseas territory. And so we have stringent land protection laws in that
okay.
the only properties that non-Bermudians can buy are properties that are over a certain value, like i.e. high-end properties, right? Um, the other properties you have a classification called PRCs, people with permanent residency.
Yeah,
They can purchase property, but just a real estate speculator just can't just come down here and say, "Oh, let me just buy up all this property." No, that can't happen
that sounds
because
like a very good plan. And I think that's something that we should do here. I believe in one of my articles, I wrote about that, because at the moment, there's so many outsiders who are purchasing land here. And so the Turks and Caicos Islanders, they are not in a position to do it themselves. And so it's like we have to bow down to these individuals now, because they are controlling the economy. And that's why I believe the government should have a threshold on who can purchase land. And I like what you guys have done in Bermuda. And that's something that we should consider, because anybody's buying, and I think anything over a certain amount should only be purchased by expat. If it's below, that should be reserved for locals. But people buying $10,000 land, 11, anyone, you know.
so we have a question that's come in from Sky EZ8653. Thank you for the question. So the question reads: has the rate of development of the tourism industry outpaced the advancement of the citizens?
Absolutely. Our development has grown so fast that, our population is around, say, 40,000, right? 40, 50. That we have to bring people into the country. We have less than a third of the population Turks and Caicos Islands, and we have to bring people in. We have about 18 to 20,000 people on work permits, and it has grown so much that the average local is not in a position to enjoy the benefits of this economy in terms of being entrepreneurs, because it's so there's a big issue with access to capital. And so they're left behind, and basically all they do, the majority of locals have, is basically they're just employees and these low end jobs. And so development tourism has definitely outpaced the advancement of the citizens. And that's why many of us ask, at what point are we going to go back and check and ask ourselves, who is this development for? Why are we developing so fast when the average person in Turks and Caicos is not benefiting? So yes.
Mhm. So, quick question: what, for argument's sake, let's say I don't know, let's say I won some money playing lotto tomorrow, right? Let's say I
Okay.
won $100,000 US. What can I buy out of that property wise? Not necessarily a building, but land wise, what can I buy out of $100,000?
You probably could buy 1 acre of land in an area that's not um, developed, or in an area that is not favorable. But 100,000 will not get you much in Turks and Caicos for land. You could buy land, but it's not in an area where you could develop it to get a good return on your money. Of course, despite that, I still encourage people, if they have $100,000, still buy the land, even if it's not in the area that you want to. And hopefully that area will eventually become a better area, and the entire community will be better.
Mhm.
But 100,000 is not much. Even buying a house or condo, that can't get you a one-bedroom house.
So the next question then would be, what is the financing like? What are the banks lending money so people can invest?
Well, that's what the bank's supposed to be. That's what the bank's role is. I mean, that's how they make money, through lending. But there have been many, many complaints by the majority of locals that they do not find favor with the banks. The banks take long. The banks do not lend the money. There are complaints that persons come into the country, are able to get loans faster than the locals. I mean, there are some local people who are getting loans. Some of the majority of people said that access to financing is very challenging. And so, as far as I know, the government has recognized that, and they're planning on establishing a mortgage fund. I'm not sure when this will start. I don't know the status of it. And they're also pushing for credit union, that these two financial institutions will be a means by which the local people will be able to at least tap into some sort of financing, so they could be enjoying, the fruits of this vibrant economy that we have.
So we have another question that comes in, which may tie into what you just said.
Wow. Do you see an opportunity for citizens to catch up? Wow. I think we're so far behind. I mean, realistically, I don't think we're going to catch up. But I do believe that some citizens will have an opportunity to be more involved, become entrepreneurs, open their business. But I'm not sure we'll catch up. I think we're so far behind. It's going to take a miracle for us to catch up. But some of us will be involved, but not catch up.
Okay.
There's a big gap. There's a big gap among the citizens and the expatriates. A significant gap.
All right. So let's make a quick transition. But before we do, I just want to give a shout out to our media partners, um, Cayman Mall Road in Cayman Islands, Cayman Mall TV, also in Cayman Islands, Channel 82 in Bermuda, CBN Radio and TV in the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, and of course, Radio Turks and Caicos and Turks and Caicos Island. Shout out to Chris Jarrett and Damian Wilson, who is part Bermudian. So I just want to give them a shout out because it's
Yes.
important that we collaborate as entities throughout the diaspora
Yeah.
and throughout the British overseas territories because
Yeah.
any media, there's no media house that can cover all the stories in the own country, much less cover all the stories in neighboring or sister islands. So
Yeah.
I want to thank those entities for ever since 2021. They have been our media partners in getting the message out to persons in respective islands. One day I was in Trinidad for a conference in 2023, and I was in the long line at the departure, and this lady says, "Hey, I know you." Like, and I'm like looking at her like, "Nah, you don't know me." Right? She says, "No, I know you." Just like so, I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, all black people look alike. You mistook me for somebody else. She says, "No,
Right.
no, I live in Turks and Caicos Island, and I've seen you on Territories Talk
Oh,
with
really?
some of the folks from Turks and Caicos." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was actually a Trinidadian that lives in.
Turks.
I never got her name. She's a Trinidadian that lives in Turks and Caicos Island, or lived in Turks and Caicos at the time. And
Okay.
she said she knew me from Territories Talk. So I'm just saying to you the power of the internet. We
Yeah.
have to utilize it as best as we can to tell our
Absolutely.
stories because there's a lot of people in Bermuda that have heard of Turks and Caicos Island, didn't know that we were related to these two people in Turks and Caicos
Turks.
Island. And over the last few years, we've had quite a number. We've had Kara Missick, MP Missick on. We've had MP Kyle Mills. We've had Deputy Robinson on,
Hmm.
yourself, and maybe one or two others
I think
from
you had
Turks and
Damien on
Caicos
too.
Island. That, yeah, Damien, who helped to educate Bermudians that yes, you have family in Turks and Caicos Island,
Yeah.
and a lot of the challenges that you all have mirror the challenges that we have in
Yeah.
regards to um, property ownership, the banks
Yeah.
not being, not lending like that. So
Yeah.
a lot of these things we can lean on each other for
Yeah.
experience and see
Yeah.
how were you able to overcome it,
We can learn from each other. Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna make a quick transition,
But before
and
we
I
go,
want
I
you.
just before we go, I just want to add because I know the question about whether there's an opportunity to catch up. I believe more of us need to come together. There are too many of us on an individual basis, and that's probably common in most of the Caribbean islands or in the world. I think if more of us come together, we have an opportunity. But too many of us are doing things individually. If we could pool our resources together, I think it'll be very impactful. And that's a challenge that I always throw out to the people of Turks and Caicos Islands. We talk about being united in words, but in action, let's come together, pool our resources, build those businesses. And I believe that as small as we are in numbers, I believe it could be a force that can be reckoned with. But if we don't come together, it's going to be difficult for us to catch up.
Yeah. On that note, that's the thing, right? We when we came out of slavery or official slavery in 1834, 1838, call it 1840 for argument's sake, we had no most black people had no education. Most black people had no college degrees. They had no jobs, professional jobs, right? All that we had was each other. And in Bermuda, I can speak for Bermuda. That in Bermuda, the blacks in Bermuda, they work together through the friendly societies or odd fellow lodges, whatever you want to call it, the churches, the schools, and they built communities. If you look in the average black neighborhood, 90% of these houses were built by black families working together because the banks did not give mortgages, right? Banks only started giving mortgages to black people maybe 40 years ago.
Is that
Black
right?
people, yeah, they
Oh,
refused to give black people mortgages,
hmm.
right? So, and I'm not making this a racial thing, but I'm just bringing in context to say that
Yeah.
because of that, because we were excluded, we were forced to work together. That was our natural way of progress, of working together. So, which ties into the point you made earlier that the ability is there, right? Too many of us, most of our parents and grandparents come from that generation that knew how to build their own houses, whether they did
Yeah.
mason work
Yeah.
or carpentry work or some skill or the other, right? And as we've
Yeah.
progressed, that we've gotten college degrees and university degrees, most of us have pushed that to the side, right? So now we
Yeah.
have to
Because
rely on now we have to rely on imported labor to build our houses. So that means it costs us more money, right?
yeah, the thing is, we're not desperate enough.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents and grandparents, they were desperate. They didn't have much, and so it forced them to work together. At the
Mm-hmm.
moment, a lot of people have some money, and so they're thinking about themselves and just being selfish. Really, not maybe not intentional. But if we are in that position where we're very, very desperate, it will force us to work together. And we're not desperate enough yet. We
Mm-hmm.
people could quit a job today and they could find another job. You could quit a job at 8 o'clock, 8:30 could find another job. That's just how it is in Turks and Caicos, the options that are available. Until we get to that point, like what it used to be years ago, where we didn't have much, it will force us to come together. But now that's an issue that we face, that we have more than enough, and so it's not putting us together.
Mm. All right, we have another question that's come in.
Do you feel that the dispersed nature of the islands and the various cultures has an impact on unity and therefore opportunity for collective? This is a very challenging and sensitive issue for us. It would be so nice if we could come together. We have over 100 nationalities in Turks and Caicos Islands, and it's unfortunate that you know we there's no assimilation. Everybody just sticks with their own culture, and so it will impact us because the little that we have, even as Turks and Caicos Islanders, even among ourselves, we are fighting with each other over silly stuff, politics and stuff like that. And so, despite the dispersed nature of our country, the opportunity is not there. It should be, but it's not. We're not together. We're not together among ourselves, and we're not together with the different nationalities. It'll be great if we can live as I always say that Turks and Caicos could be a great example of living in harmony if we could just truly live in harmony. But it is not happening. And every time I think something is happening, something else happened. Like recently, we have every time, for example, when the government passed laws to protect its people, right? Or for example, the government passed laws for real estate, where only Turks and Caicos Islanders could be brokers. We're being challenged by expatriates. We're being challenged. We have the same-sex marriage. Um, our constitution say marriage between a man and woman. We had someone that got married abroad. He challenged the court, and so that is driving further division among us, because because it's creating animosity, so to speak, because we have people that are just fighting our system, and rather than respecting our laws and unity, it's impacting our unity.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the irony. I see the name there. I'm assuming it's Clear Asswood. All right. And the irony is, I can't tell if just by the name alone, I
Oh,
can't
well,
tell
there's
that whether it's a Bermudian
Turks and
or
Caicos.
Turks and Caicos Island, because there's a clear ass within Bermuda, and I'm sure there may be a clear ass within Turks and Caicos. But that speaks back to the fact that we are one people, right? In a
Absolutely,
sense,
we are one.
historically, we are one
Yeah,
people. The Asswood is that is one of the most common names in Bermuda. Like,
yeah. It's common in Turks and Caicos as well.
yeah, your opposition leaders are Asswood, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so let's go to something that I looked up. Yeah, spoke earlier about the yeah. Thank you, Miss Asswood, for your question. Yeah, spoke earlier about crime going down. I know that there was a couple years ago there was like a crime wave going on. How's that right now?
Well, up until I think around June or July, we had about 47 murders for the year,
Hmm.
and we have a new commissioner of police who came from Jamaica. We've had commissioners of police in the past who came from the UK or Canada, and since he came, we've seen a 40% decrease in crime, and they were able to actually kill four of those gangs members. One of those gang members was responsible, according to the police, was responsible for 19 murders. And since they were able to get rid of those four persons, we've seen a dramatic reduction in crime in Turks and Caicos. Our crime is really gang related. So someone gets killed, there's revenge killing, and that's why sometimes I'm very sensitive when I see articles about Turks and Caicos and the crime, because it can be misleading, even though it is true to a certain extent. I mean, due to the size of our country, um, and per capita, our crime level is high, but crime is happening everywhere. It's just
Mm,
that our crimes are gang related, and once we get under wrap, I think we'll see a big difference, and we've already seen a big difference in our country. We haven't had any major crime, as I can recall, since July, August, which is good news for us. Nobody wants murderers. Nobody wants it, because you'd be walking among the streets and don't know who you among. And I would just want to, thank the team, the commissioner of police and his team, for at least, trying their best to capture those criminals and create some sort of fear in them, because the criminals were not afraid of the police. But now somehow I believe, because the police was able to kill four of them, I think that created a lot of fear among them.
mm. All right, so let's go to something else. This is the honorable. Well, you tell us who this person is.
Oh, Chuck, Arlington Musgrove. Hmm.
On this headline, courtesy of the Turks and Caicos Sun. So I don't want them to say we're using the article and
Oh,
not
okay.
giving and not giving them the props, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Hmm.
So I read this with interest where he said that he would like to make it where there's going to be restrictions on car work permit holders having their own private vehicles. Tell us about that.
Well, I wrote an article as well. We do have a major um, vehicle congestion issue on the island of Provo. I don't think it's happening in Grand Turk and in the other islands, but Provo has a major congestion where it's taking about an hour to 2 hours to get to work or at home. And
Mhm.
we do not have a public transportation system. So we have some individuals who have some little small cars, or they rent a vehicle providing illegal jitney services. So we have a congestion problem. Now, I do not agree with the minister on the restriction on work permit holders. I think that's discrimination. What I think we should do is restrict households like what you do in Bermuda. And I think that whether you on a work permit or not, whether you're Turks and Caicos Island, whether you're on a work permit, I think there should be restrictions on how many vehicles we have per household. And I also think that the government should implement a public transportation system, a good public transportation system, because if they do, then many of us will need to have our own vehicles. And so I know when the minister mentioned that, he said it will be in conjunction with the public system, but he's also asking the private sector to submit proposals to the government for the public transportation system. And I believe the government should do a public transportation system. And we just spoke about locals not being able to afford to get into business at the moment. The government should do, even if they do a PPP, a private partnership with some local people. And I think the public transportation is the answer, and then restrictions on how many cars a household can have. I think that's the answer. I don't think we should just target work permit holders.
Okay. All righty. All right. And then we also have, we have a winding down in the last 15 minutes or so. But
No problem.
we also have this article by someone you may know.
Oh,
Tell us about this.
well, I sort of mentioned it earlier, where the court system this is the court article, right?
Beg pardon?
This article on the court system, right? I can't see too well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Set up with the court system
Yeah.
being used to
So
control TCI.
I get it that everybody has a democratic right. If they feel they're being taken advantage of or justice is not being taken place, they should go to court. I get it. I understand that. But I believe that there's an abuse in our court system. Let me give an example. We had Sri Lankans who came to this country legally via Haiti on an illegal slope. We got them, we detained them, and then COVID came. And they were put up into a hotel, in my understanding. And then they turn around into a detention center, I think. They turn around and sued the government. I don't remember the grounds. They sued the government. They won their case and they got a healthy financial payoff. And they end up also getting refugee status. Then we have the case where, immigration officers stop individuals on the road and they didn't have their documents. And so they took them to the detention center. Whether that's legal or not, I do not know. This couple took the government to court and they sued the government. They won their case and they got a financial benefit. Then we have another case where there's a big vending issue going on the beach where locals want to be on the beach to, provide services for tourists. There's some homeowners who feel that having the vendors on the beach has created a dramatic decline in the value of their properties. And so what the government's going to do, and they also say vendors was not allowed in that area. So the government had intention of buying something called by acquisition, compulsory acquisition, whereby they could, acquire the land from someone. And the owner took the government to court, and the government lost their case. The judge said that the government has another piece of land, and they didn't. And then I talked already about the same-sex marriage case. And so and then we had another incident whereby we have the status, belongership. It's no longer called belongership. It's Turks and Caicos Islands Status Commission, where people apply for status. It goes to a board. Then the board make recommendations to the governor. Of course, she doesn't have to accept their recommendations. And they recommended some of these individuals should not get their status. Okay. So they took the government to court because they believed there were some loopholes. They believed that the commission was biased, whatever. They won, and they won their case. And so everything is going to court. And every time the government loses. And I have a problem with that. Maybe it's not, I can't blame the people for taking the government to court, as I say, but something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. And that's what that article is about.
Okay. And then we also have, let me bring this one up. as we start to wind on. That's
Oh,
Mr. Ashwood, Honorable Ashwood, correct?
yes, that's the leader of the opposition.
Mhm. So it's immediate delivery of promised stimulus. Tell us about that in 2 minutes or less.
Well, the government that's in power, this is their second term in power. And during their first term in power, I think they gave about 4 or 5 stimulus. It is my understanding, I mean, I don't know because I wasn't paying too much attention to the campaign. It is my understanding that they promised the people stimulus. They were reelected in February, and I believe this is what the opposition leaders is demanding, that the government live up to their promise. Now, I cannot say that they promised the people that. I don't know. There were rumors that they did promise them that, but I do not know. As I said, I was not involved, and that's what this is about. And of course, people continue to say they are suffering, and I guess opposition leaders saying a stimulus will help.
Well, they have this saying in in um in Bermuda. I don't know about that, boy. I don't know about that, boy. And then in Turks and Caicos, they actually have a beer saying, "I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna
Yeah,
lie."
yeah, there is a bill.
Yeah, right. So I
Yeah,
as you very skillfully said, "Hey, I don't know about that, boy.
yeah.
I didn't pay
My
attention."
okay, my I might not be in the majority, but I don't believe that stimulus should be given out so often.
Mhm.
I believe we should find the ways and means to encourage our people, equip our people with the resources to develop themselves, where they do not have to rely on stimulus. The last stimulus we received it like a month or so before the elections, and it was a red flag, and I started believing in stimulus, the frequency of stimulus.
So we have two questions came in from Miss or Mrs. Ashwood. Says, "What are your thoughts on the country making progress towards independence?"
We're not making any progress, not at all. I believe we should be talking about independence. We should at least have that conversation. I mean, what I did on my, because I have a YouTube show. I invited an expert. I think he lives in BVI or the U.S. Virgin Islands, to educate the public about it on my show.
Who's that?
We need
Mr.
to have
Corbin,
conversations.
Dr. Corbin,
Yes, that's his name. We need to
Carlisle
have that
Corbin.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to have
he's
that
from,
conversation.
he's actually from St. Croix in the USVI.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of myths about independence. Some people believe, oh, we are not growing anything, so we can't get independent. I think that's rubbish. You don't have to grow to become independent. We talk about political independence, and countries are interdependent on each other. And I think, personally, I think now is the time for us to talk about independence. Now is the time for us to put it on a time frame, because I believe it's necessary. I believe, because we are financially independent, I don't think we need to be in an overseas territory of United Kingdom. I think that time is up. I don't think United Kingdom is helping us in any way. And I really think that more of us need to talk about it. I know that a group of individuals have come together and they have formed this committee, but I'm not sure what progress is being made, because the person that formed that committee is the former premier, Michael Mizik. So I'm not sure how serious the average Turks and Caicos Island is taking that group. But I believe we need to talk about it and have an education plan. But we're far from it, because nobody is talking about it. Nobody's educating the country about it. What are the pros and cons? Nobody is saying anything about it.
And which leads to this question from Ms. Ashwood again.
No, no, no. I love politics. I love politics, but I don't think I'm going to go into politics. I, I may be very extreme. We have two major political parties here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, the PNP, which is our incumbent government, and then we have the opposition, which is the PDM. There is no difference between those two political parties as far as there's nothing between them except personality. And I feel that our country is so divided over politics. And I also want to have the ability to speak freely. I don't want to be in an environment where I have to be controlled and confined to what a party says. And I think that's what's happening in our country, where people are not being able to speak freely or vote on things freely from their heart, but they vote on what the party says. And I can't be in that environment. And I don't want to be someone where I'm divided because of who I am associated with. I want to be that person that is highlighting what's happening in our country and educating the people, no matter who the government of the day is. So I don't see myself as an election candidate. No.
All right. Well, no, not yet.
Well, I don't know what the future lies, but I don't see it.
All right. Well, as we start to wrap up, I just want to again thank you for your candid. As you say, you're not beholden to any political party, so you're calling things as you see it, right? And I just want to thank you for your not just your candor today, but your friendship over the last 4 or 5 years that we've gotten to know you, or I've gotten to know you personally. When I came to the first and the only time so far that I've come to Turks and Caicos Island, you came and picked me up and took me around, showed me,
yes,
showed me, showed me around Provo, right? Took me and got to get conch soup,
conch chowder,
the conch chowder, and then when I ate, I realized like they had pork in it.
Yeah,
you didn't mention that.
Kitchen.
All right, but the point I'm saying is that take all the other stuff out of the equation, right? Is that we as Caribbean or Atlantic people, whatever terms you want to give, we have a thing that when we visit each other island, we treat each other like family, right?
Yes.
And I want to say categorically, when I came to Turks and Caicos Island, you treated me like family. You came pick me up, and we spent a good couple hours together, right? And anytime I reach out to you to be on the show, you're always there to share with the people, right? So I just want to thank you and thank your family for sharing you with the people of Turks and Caicos Island and the region on a whole, because we need more men like you who are willing to call things for what they are, right?
Yes, we do.
It may cause you a little gray hairs, but these things happen.
All of us need to get too many people. Too many people are quiet and silent. We need to speak up, and I believe we speak up, we could pressure the government and pressure the community to come together. We're too quiet.
Yeah. And thank you, Miss Aswood, for tuning in.
It might be a Mr. too, because I don't know. That could be a Mr. Aswood as well.
Claire? I don't know.
Clary. Yeah.
Well, sorry. Whoever it is, thank you. We also have a comment from Miss Figueroa and Sky Easy 653. Again, I want to Mr. Claire Aswood. Okay, they clarified.
Oh, okay.
All right. I also want to give a shout out to my co-host, Shayna Smith Archer in the beautiful Virgin Islands, Speaker Shirley Osborne in Montserrat. Shout out to our media partners, Cayman Mall Road, Cayman Mall TV, Channel 82 in Bermuda, CBN Radio and TV in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and also Chris Jarrett and Damian Wilson of Radio Turks and Caicos Island. And shout out to all my Turks and Caicos family, because there's a whole host of you that I've met over the last few years that, again, you treat me like family. So before we go, I just want to give a little preview of something that we'll be having in Bermuda. On Wednesday, we'll be speaking to Pastor Leroy Bean about the gang violence reduction. He's an MP as well.
Oh,
but he's spearheading the gang violence reduction here in Bermuda. In Bermuda, we've unfortunately had 5 murders for the year.
oh,
5 may seem less than 47, but that's 5 too many, right?
yeah, absolutely. One murder is too much for us.
Right. So on Wednesday, this Wednesday, in 2 days' time, we'll be speaking to Pastor Leroy Bean. So yeah, brother Drax, thank you. As
It was a
Mr. Claire
pleasure.
Ashford said, it's been a great show, and this show will be broadcasted in the Turks and Caicos Island via Radio Turks and Caicos Island. I don't know if it's going to be this week or next week, but it will be broadcasted. So shout out to all my cousins in 0989 islands of the
Yeah.
beautiful Turks and Caicos Island.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, my brother. And shout out to Mr. Claire Ashwood. And you must
Yes.
come to Bermuda, see your family here. There's a lot of Ashwoods in Bermuda.